Good afternoon, and thank you for turning in to the Clubhouse Briefing podcast. I think this is episode 6 now, and so it is a Sunday here in Texas. It is warm, it is sunny, and it's been a really good day. It's a good Sunday. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon when I'm recording this. It's the week of the PGA Championship, and so very excited to go over that. Also, very excited to just go over a couple things that have happened in the world of golf, as well as start talking about future episodes for the video and what I'll be doing the next video that I do. And so I always try to have some sort of theme or um, some sort of title for the episode based upon something that I've researched and wanted to go over. And so working on getting the next big one done, but in the update, still want to kind of keep the momentum going of being on here, talking, doing all that stuff. And hopefully my video is syncing up with my audio because my wife's home, we're both home, the TV's going. The Wi-Fi is really having to do a lot of work. And so hopefully everything works. It's uploading while it's recording this on the software that I'm doing, and so I think it'll be fine. But just in case, audio listeners, you will not be affected, but video listeners, hopefully through editing, I'll get it to sync up. But not going to focus on the negative. So it is PGA Championship week, and I'm going to get on to the score and some other things. But I want to go over I need to go over what the PGA of America is. What is the PGA Championship? And so it came up because my boss was asking me. He was like, "Hey, what tournaments this week?" And I said, "Hey, it's a PGA Championship." He said, "I think that's the one the PGA Tour hosts." And I was like, "No, it's not exactly it, but that's a common misconception." So the PGA Championship is ran by the PGA of America. It's just the Professional Golf Association of America, or the United States, and what they do is all of the club professionals, director of instructions, assistant club pros that you see whenever you go to a golf shop or a golf course, um, they can be either licensed by the PGA of America or not. And what that is the PGA of America, they run um, um, different golf course tournaments with like the Ryder Cup. They do the PGA Championship, and they have a corporate organization that handles member relations with members. So any club professional, any assistant professional licensed with the PGA of America and certified under their teaching program, because they have a whole um, program that people can go through to become a PGA pro. And so you can do it the associate way, where you have to do a playing test to qualify to be a PGA of America member. There's a college program that you can go to certain universities. Another one here in Texas is Sam Houston, and you can get a PGA credential that way. And what it does is that credential tells golf courses, hey, this person knows what they're doing. This man or this woman, they know exactly how to run the business side of a golf shop and a golf course. They're going to be good in merchandise sales, member relations, club fitting, not keeping supply in demand, keeping equipment inventory in stock for different fitting carts and merchandise. And so, yeah, the PGA, it's a membership for golf professionals. It's the organization that manages golf professionals here in the United States. And so they're involved with a lot of the different foundations. They run the PGA Junior League that kids can play in. And the USGA and the RNA overseas, they run a ton of different golf related things here. So it's kind of just like one of the governing bodies, but not for golf tournaments like USGA is for amateur golf. It's just one of the governing bodies for um, the PGA of America. I mean, there's professional golfers in America here, and so yeah, that's and I probably didn't do it justice. I mean, there's a long line of where the PGA of America used to be what the PGA Tour was, and back in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, where different teaching professionals, club professionals that were members of the PGA had their own tournaments, and eventually they created the PGA Tour just for touring professionals. And so I probably didn't do it justice. Their website here is absolutely wonderful. They go over everything that they do with advocating for PGA members, promoting the game. They do a lot of stuff with the first tee. There's a business side of it. And so there's tons of different things. Like I said, I didn't do the best job of going over it in details because there's so much to do, but that is the PGA of America. And so saying that, the PGA Championship is the major championship that the PGA of America puts on. I think there's there's either 144 or 146 regular PGA Tour players, but due to this being the PGA Championship, the PGA of America says, hey, we're going to let 20 of our teaching professionals across the country qualify to play with the big boys, so to say, in this major. And so there's 20 teaching professionals at various country clubs or public golf courses around the United States, and they play with the touring professionals on tour, and they're allowed to play in this tournament. So that is what it is. There's a lot more to that. There is different things to become a PGA Tour, or not PGA Tour, a PGA of America member. They have different executives that run the organization. They are kind of like the voice of every club pro and a lot of the teaching directors in the United States. And so good organization. I don't have any complaints or anything to say about that besides that's what they are and that's what they do. So the tournament, it's on Sunday. And so final day, this leaderboard was not looking the way that it was earlier. I think at the beginning of the day, let's find him. Alex Smalley, he was leading the tournament at 6 under. He's 2 over for the day. A lot of the other names are up here, except for Justin Thomas and Kurt Kitayama. He shot 65 in the final round, and Kurt shot a 63. And so definitely best scores of the day. Cameron Smith, it's good to see him up there. We will get on to LIV in just a little while. You could probably see it up here, that the league is having some issues, but it is good to see him play because he's a heck of a player. I love his golf swing. Everyone loves his putting stroke. I'm kind of indifferent about it. I don't think it's statistically probably one of the best parts of his game, but I don't think that's really the most visually appealing. I love his golf swing, the way that it flows and the length of it. Plus his follow through is really good. So I love him as a golfer, or I love him as a golfer. I love his golf swing. And he seems like a pretty cool dude. And so he's one of the LIV golfers that's doing well, along with John Rahm. He is in contention this week, which is good to see. You know, it's kind of sad that only Rahm and Dustin Johnson was Rahm, Dustin Johnson, and Carlos Ortiz. They were kind of the only LIV players that made the cut at the Masters. I think that's why I say kind of. I think there was maybe 4 or 5, but they were the most notable of those. So it's good to see them play this week. It's a tough golf week for the players. I thought it was going to be like 15 to 20 under par would be the winning score, kind of in that range. And so the tournament is playing hard. Aaron Rye is cruising right now. He kind of snuck up on me because I knew he played well the first day shooting even, but then round 2 and round 3 really got himself into contention. He's playing well. So he's one of the me and my golf kind of like OG YouTuber students. He's a student of one of the OG YouTube channels here on YouTube. And so good to see that he's doing well. He seems like a very nice guy. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And so you got Rahm, Justin Thomas is in the clubhouse, Cameron, Rory, Chris Gotterup, Justin Rose, Scotty, a lot of big names and a lot of players that have been playing good. So it's exciting to see that. I don't know who's going to win, obviously, because the tournament's not over. I was really excited to see Minwoo play. I wanted to see him play good over the weekend on Friday, but went out, shot 63, and was tied for the leadoff after Thursday. And you know, even one over is a great golf. I would love taking that, but isn't going to win you a major championship. And so, you know, pretty good field. I mean, really good field, but pretty good turnout with who's in the top 25 and top 30. And so I will be staying tuned. And if Aaron got his first major, that'd be really, really cool to see and good for him. And so, with that being said, it is time to get to, I would say, the biggest golf announcement, the 2 biggest golf announcements that's come out since I recorded the Masters episode mid April. The first is that the car company, McLaren, yes, you heard me right, McLaren has started making golf clubs. You can see the puzzlement on my face because I don't know how exactly it came to be. I think I'll get onto this in a second. I think golf is kind of a um, wide open market in terms of the premium range of golf club pricing and sales. And so I think McLaren is like, hey, we're going to capitalize on what we do, which is engineer really fast cars. And we're going to take a lot of the technology that we have from that with materials and shaping and R&D. We're also going to bring in some people that are in the golf industry, and we're going to make a really good premium golf brand. And I'm excited to see how they do it because right now they have two clubs, it's all irons. So they, you can see there the silhouette of Justin Rose. They have signed three ambassadors for the brand. I will go there right now. Three athletes, but I also think these golfers may have equity in the company, and so they're ambassadors, but they're also stakeholders in the company. The most famous of them being Justin Rose. So he was the first one to really announce that he was partnering with McLaren. I know he had a lot of involvement on the series one irons, the blade, the muscle back, and I mean he also involved the cavity. He was also involved in the cavity back, of course, but I think he really put in a lot of effort with the blades. Michelle Weed, very famous ladies golfer. She's the second one that was really announced publicly as being a brand ambassador for them. And then the last one being Ian Poulter over on LIV. And so that's the three athletes that they have. Right now, they've only done irons and gear, which honestly, the gear is a lot more thorough. Not that they're not doing those other things like wedges, putters, etc. Just gear is a lot more offering at the moment. There's a lot more to pick from, and so I'll get onto that. But iron wise, these are the two models: the Series 3 and the Series 1. So the Series 1 is the blade, the muscle back. It is a MIM. I want to say it's metal injection molding construction. It is a certain specific way that you have a cast mold and you inject metal into that instead of doing a traditional forging where you have the metal itself and then you beat it and forge it into a particular shape, compressing the steel and making a really good feeling whenever you strike the ball. And so instead of doing that, like Mizuno or Mura do over in Japan, they're doing cast molds or a certain mold that's already preformed, and they're injecting forged metal into that. I don't know the specifics of it. It's steel and some other stuff that go into it, but it makes a really good feeling iron that's not forged the traditional way. Um, which that shows on the price tag. But that's the blade that they're making with Justin Rose. As you can tell, there's not a Series 2. There is only a Series 1 and 3. And so eventually there's going to be a Series 2 that kind of blends these irons together. But um, I'm very intrigued on the Series 1. The Series 3, honestly, it's not really doing it for me. I don't mind the top line address. I think maybe the heel's a little long. Like this feels like a very long heel kind of flow. Top line looks good. I think, Justin Rose has this in the 4 and the 5 iron. Um, it's really not doing it for me. I don't mind, I've watched the reviews from Rick Shields, from some other people on YouTube about the lettering. I don't mind the lettering. It goes with the racing aspect of the brand. I don't mind it, but I really don't like the back of the golf club. Like I just feel like it almost gives off. Okay, not really sure what. There's a certain TaylorMade iron. Well, that'd be great if I could see the photo. There you go. The burner. It kind of let's see this. I don't know. It gives me like, it kind of looks like this. It's not the exact model I was looking for. I think this is probably the best way to say it. Like the 2011, what is that? That's a rocket ball. That's another one. I don't know. The iron itself, the Series 3, it kind of gives me like the shaping of the rocket balls with like the center point, um, the burner 2, with kind of the way that the side of the chassis kind of diagonals in there. There's a center sweet spot kind of illustration on there. That really just is what I see here. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. I'm not their target audience. I like my Cobra and my Srixon irons that I have. And so, and plus at $375 club, unless his podcast really, really pops off and decides to, be number one in the world. I don't see me being able to afford these irons, but I don't know. I don't like it. I think, design wise, the Series 1 is beautiful. Like it's very, very nice. Blade, obviously, they weren't made for me, so I understand that. But just from a design standpoint, I don't really like the Series 3. It just kind of gives off TaylorMade burner vibes, which granted, these were really great clubs. I mean, they were made before I started playing, and so I didn't really get to play with said irons whenever I was starting to play golf back in 2020, 14. Back in 2014, these were really the big irons that were out from TaylorMade was PSI. Those are the clubs that everyone had and was playing with on the golf team and also on tour. And so, I wasn't really around for the rocket balls. I remember seeing a few of those in people's bags, but um, and the burner. That's what I see whenever I see the Series 3 from McLaren. And so, um, all in all, I mean, I'm sure they're lovely irons. I watched Rick's review on YouTube, and they were great. I mean, they perform well. The numbers are great, and they're made for Justin and the rest of that ambassador crew. I just don't like them, and I think I don't doubt the business decision of that because if you've got a McLaren car and you go and get a fitting for these, you're custom fit into them. You've got matching car for your matching golf gloves for your car. It's pretty cool. I think it's very neat what they're doing, and I think it's interesting to see. I don't know how it's going to play out long term because my fear would be that this is another PXG and that they start at a super premium price. PXG was $3, $4, $5,000 when they first came out, which is about what a set of these would be. I think if you got a set of 7 clubs, yeah, if you got 7 clubs, 4 to pitching wedge. I don't know if they make 3 irons. I honestly have to look real fast. Series 3, they do make a 3 iron. So if you did 3 iron to a gap wedge, 9 clubs, that'll set you back $3,300, almost $3,400. That's a lot of money, and you could buy almost a whole used set of golf clubs for that amount. So I think with the pricing they're doing, smart strategic space, because other than that, I don't really think of anything that's occupying that part of the market besides, mirror golf or custom made irons. But from a OEM like TaylorMade, Titleist, Callaway, Ping, that market space is really unknown. And I think with what they're doing, they're going to be teaming up with 2 retail fitters. Uh, I'd say 2. They're doing more than that, obviously, but um, 2 that I heard about being Club Champion and True Spec. That's where I went to. But Club Champion, True Spec, certain specific custom fitters that are already going to be more of a premium service. They're teaming up with that. You can't buy them directly from McLaren, and so I think it's smart. Like I think they will have a lot of interest, especially with Justin Rose and how he's performing right now in the PGA Championship. I think there's a valid argument to be made that they're good clubs, and I think they will be. They're going to perform very well and everything. Um, yeah, I mean he's tied ninth, so I think they're cool. They're cool clubs. I haven't hit them. I don't know a ton about them besides they um, combine McLaren's dynamic, aerodynamics. They're going to use the best steel that McLaren has, and they're going to be something that McLaren really has ownership of. Um, and full control of. And so it's interesting to see what they're going to be doing with these. Like I said, I don't know. I think the gear is a very good selection. I like the bag. I mean, I don't know if the orange does it for me. I think I'd be more of a blue or gray, but very distinct on brand products. Like I said, the gear with the gloves and they don't have gloves. Yeah, they do. The gloves, the hats, everything is going to be very, very premium. Like this hat, for example, very nice. And so I'm excited to see how they perform on tour, but also who else is further adopters and starts playing them on staff. Um, and so, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to keep up with that. But that's another big thing that's happened this last 2 or 3 weeks is that McLaren Golf has entered the chat, entered the arena for golf equipment. The next thing that I want to move on to is, I've covered LIV Golf in the past, going over the financials of last year, what players have made the most money, where did they play at, so forth and so forth. But news broke earlier this month that LIV Golf is, I wouldn't say dying, but bleeding out. They are really struggling with funding. Okay, but like I was saying, um, the Saudi Arabian investment fund PIF has pulled all their funding. The league is scrambling to diversify its investment sources, is how they say it, which basically is, we have no money, please give us money. Which reports came out earlier this year that the league was losing between $800 and $500 million a year. They're still having to pay out on those player contracts they sign. The league itself, just from operating, is not profitable, and so it's it's not really going to be good for LIV, and the players. I mean, obviously not good for the LIV in terms of losing its main source of funding. But if the product continues, it's not going to be good from a standpoint of they're going to have to shrink player contracts, which, to be fair, a lot of the players only went over there for the money, which is what Brooks even said when he left. Um, the product's not going to have as much resources to play at certain venues. I think the fan experience from streaming, in person things they have with concerts and different amenities with food, that's going to be reduced. Budget's going to get tight, and they're going to have to make do. And so, um, this article really talks about how golf was more of a political move for them by the Saudi Arabian government, all the different things that went into the funding it, talking about how the product was mediocre, which I think from a financial aspect was great. There was a lot of things that I have talked about that the from a business perspective of time for money. How much am I getting paid to do the job that I'm already doing? It was a really great proposition for upcoming players like Caleb Surratt and David Poog. A lot of different people that are coming out of college or needed a place to go. It was a good place for them to go because they're going to get paid a lot of money for their time. But from a competitive, which I didn't talk on this in the last episode that I had on the specifics of LIV, a lot of the competitive aspects of the game were lacking. At first, it started as a 3-day league. They only played on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then they had to eventually move over to a 4-day league, which took away from one of the main draws the players wanted, was less golf, a looser schedule, more time with the family, more time with kids. They moved away from that because that's um, that wasn't helping them get official world ranking points for any of the players. It was struggling to get them sponsorship time because sponsors deciding on 3 days of LIV on YouTube or on ESPN versus 4 days on CBS with a golf course sponsorship. In terms of just viewership, because in-person sponsors on billboards or on scoring tents on the sides of grandstands, 3 days of exposure compared to 4, it was hard for a sponsor to go, okay, yeah, I'll put my money on LIV compared to the PGA Tour. Additionally, the other big thing is that it was a shotgun start. The team aspect was kind of a bit wonky. I mean, it made sense. It worked all right, but in terms of the teams, there was really only 4 or 5 that you were really invested in. The other 8, you were like, okay, not really that concerned with it. And so, um, I think a lot of my critique came from the highlight videos of what I've seen. My critique would come from the highlight videos were just putting. That was all it is. It was putting, chipping, and the occasional drive. You never got a fluid tee to green. Here's the final score for the hole. Move on to the next player that just had a big change in score. There was no flow to it. It was kind of just random putts, random things here and there. And so, um, I never really had an issue with the league itself existing. I think the PGA Tour um, needed a rivalry to increase the quality of its product, but also player payouts. But I don't know, LIV. I just never was a big fan of it. I thought it was just kind of people going for money, which each to their own. That's not what drives me. That may drive other people. But eventually, you have to live for more than something than just paycheck, because you die, that money gets passed down after your kids and your grandkids pass away. All the money you work to earn is probably going to be misused and not even there anymore. So for the deeper parts of the human experience, you could say part of life is legacy, connection, you know, status, pride, the things that I think a lot of the golf uh, players get into the game for: recognition and history and true connection to what they're doing. you know, I don't think LIV had any of that. So all that to say, this article from Golf Digest, they talk about how the damage to the golf world is permanent, how um, the two CEOs, Greg Norman and then the new guy, Scott, what is his name? I want to say it's Scott O'Neill. Yeah, Scott O'Neill. How the two CEOs had an impact on the golf industry and tournament golf. And so I think the only thing that I would say is that outstanding, what do they have to do with their players? What are their players going to do? I think a lot of them are just going to go to the DP Tour or retire. Thomas Peters just said, hey, look, earlier this month, he said, hey, look, I have enough money where I'm just going to retire. I'm not even going to play professional golf again. And there was another guy from, it was the 22 or the 23 PGA Championship where he was leading. Oh my gosh. He was part of Torquay. Mito Pereira. That's who it was. Mito Pereira just retired from LIV Golf. Like I said, they made enough money, they can retire. But I think they're going to get bored. I think a lot of the players, you if you just retire at 35 and you've got 40 more years to do absolutely nothing, it's not going to be that fun. So I think they're all going to get involved in other things. I think they're going to go try to reapply for status on the DP World or the PGA Tour. All of them are going to get 1 year, suspensions from the last LIV tournament they played. But a lot of these people, I don't really think the PGA Tour needs them or should even care if they come back. I mean, Martin Keimer, he's older. He's not really much of a factor anymore for major tournaments, other stuff like that. But like the Cleeks Golf Club, I don't think they would add that much value to the PGA. Crushers, I mean, I like Paul Casey. He was a very good PGA Tour golfer. And Bryson, there's an argument to be made that the PGA Tour doesn't need any of these players. Honestly, they're doing fine just with the roster and the team they have right now of the players they're playing. But I just I feel bad for some of the guys where the damage can't be undone. Like Phil Mickelson, he's obviously never come back to PGA. A lot of the Legion 13 players, they left PGA Tour and they said, hey, we're not doing this, along with some of the older players like Lee Westwood, Ian Poulter, other guys that joined this lawsuit against the PGA. They left to go over to LIV. They're playing there now. But I just feel like they kind of dug themselves a hole because now once they lose money and they're now switched from playing 3 to 4 days, which is a big deal, they're not going to be getting paid as much. They get less world ranking points than they would on the PGA Tour, and the competition itself is not that great. I don't know. It's just a hard thing for me to, hard thing for me to really support or understand. I think the only players that would truly add value to the PGA Tour in terms of just, performance and how they would do. I would say Lasso. I don't know if Michael Lasso would be that much of an asset to the PGA. Fireballs, Jose Ballester, Paul Casey and DeChambeau, John Rahm and Terrell Hatton. The other two guys, they're rookies, they're new, just out of college, and then just out of the, European ranks for Tom McKibben. I think Legion 13 is probably the best team to get back to the PGA. Majestic's none of them. I mean, Sam Horsfeld will play on the DP World Tour again. None of the. This is a new team. They rebranded, I guess. The KJC. Okay, I guess it's Oklahoma. So, all right. Range Goats, Matthew Wolf. I don't think he's going to come back. Ripper, I think Elvis Smiley and Lucas Herbert, maybe Cameron Smith. Cameron Smith was a really good player. He could come back. Southern Guards, no. And then Torquay, I think, Joaquin. So maybe 7 to 8 players out of the entire LIV roster that come back and really have a substantial impact on the PGA. But they have to figure that out. They're going to figure out what they're going to do because, like I said, they don't have any more money. I mean, they can try to go at it. As I guess, Four Aces also is on there. Which even then, Thomas Peters is retiring. Anthony Kim, he could play. And then Dustin Johnson, he's probably going to retire because he's been playing professional golf since I was like 4. So I think a lot of them are going to retire. A lot of them are going to go back to the DP World Tour. And a few are going to be allowed. That's the thing, is PGA has to allow them back on. And so there's a lot going on. I don't know what they're going to do, but LIV's time may be coming to an end, is what I have to say. So moving on to the next thing that I've been reading on and keeping up with is that Cameron Young is playing a golf ball that would conform to the golf ball rollback that the USGA and the other governing bodies are talking about continuously, because I think it's still 3 or 4 years away until the rollback's going to happen. Or they're developing, what do we need to do about this rollback of the golf ball? And for those who don't know, the USGA did a distance report, basically from, I want to say, back to the 1980s and 90s, all the way into the modern era, which really Tiger changed a lot of the distance issues that you could say are going on because of being in the gym, being physically fit, and hitting the golf ball further than anyone else had before. I think apart from John Daly, but the USGA looked back at 40 years of history of, okay, what is the distance trend among the top professional players in the world, PGA Tour players and DP World Tour players. Um, they found that players are hitting it so far now that supposedly they're hitting it so far that we need to adjust golf courses to fit that the PGA Tour players are playing golf courses the way they weren't designed because they hit it so far, and that everything has basically become a driver and a pitching wedge, or a driver and a 60 degree for these players, and that we need to change the distance and the amount of length they can achieve off the tee. And so what they've done is they've said, okay, we're not going to change the clubs. We're not going to implement some sort of swing speed rule, which you can't do just because every player is going to swing how fast they swing. We're going to change how far the golf ball goes. And so it started with bifurcation. Should we have different rules for the professional league versus amateurs, which kind of gets in the muddy water with elite amateurs like college players, people that are trying to play for the U.S. Amateur, that kind of in between professional minor leagues, Corn Ferry, Latin America Tour, PGA Tour, professional, but going into the minor leagues, and that transition period between that and like college programs that are D1, D2. So it started with possibly having bifurcation, one ball for the professionals, one ball for amateurs that are going to play recreational golf, but also in amateur tournaments. That got dropped because golf is a sport where I can go buy Cameron Young's golf clubs. I can go buy the GTS3. I can go buy his irons, not his prototypes, but I can go buy irons that are as much like his as I can, wedges, putters, golf ball, glove. I can buy the exact same stuff that Cameron Young uses every week and go out there and potentially shoot the same score. Now I'm not going to, obviously, but that's one of the draws for golf, is that you can do the exact same things the pros do. You can hit professional quality shots out on the golf course. And so they ditched that. I believe it's now a complete rollback for amateurs and professionals. And so with all that being said, there's different testing parameters that they decided. There's different ways they were going to see if a golf ball was in conformance. But their goal, the USGA, was, and for those of you who don't know, the USGA is the United States Golf Association. They oversee American golf as a whole. Everything within the US, they oversee golf in the United States, and they work in tandem with the PGA of America on a lot of things. But the USGA decided, look, old golf courses, the RBC Heritage Golf Course, Harbortown, different courses up in the Northeast that have been around longer, they're going to become obsolete. They're not going to be used for major tournaments. They're not going to be used for high-level tournaments because players are hitting at 330. Oh, it's 120 in. Let's hit a 60 degree. We'll move on for the day and be done. So they decided that we're going to roll back the golf ball between, I want to say it was between 15 and 20 yards. So it was between 15 and 20 yards. And like this article goes through by Golf Digest, it's from May 13th to last Wednesday. At first it was 20 yards. They were going to, in 2023, when the distance report was released, they wanted to make the golf ball go shorter by 20 yards at their max swing speed that they have on a robot that they use. They hit a golf ball, they look at the numbers, they say, okay, with this robot swing speed at 127 miles an hour, the club is going through the air. This golf ball needs to go 20 yards shorter than what it is. So there's a lot of different rules. Honestly, it's too much to keep up with unless you follow it full time. There's a lot going on, but Cameron Young in 2025, so end of last year, right before he won at the Wyndham Championship, he put in a new ball for play. This ball conforms to that USGA rollback standards. And so if you were to go look at Cameron Young's driving stats for this year, so he put that ball back into play fall of last year. All right. Stats, driving. All right. So 2026, I'm going to start with 25. 2025, driving distance, 313 yards. That includes drives before the ball switch, but also with the ball switch. This guy is hitting it 313 yards. That is astronomical. I hit like 250, 260. But he's hitting it 313 yards, total distance, number of drives, get that calculation. And he's hitting it about 50% in the fairway, 54% in the fairway, every tournament that he plays. 313 yards. 2026, he is still using the same golf ball that he has been using since the tournament back in November. His average driving distance, 312. So he lost a yard. In one year, he's lost a yard. The USGA went through, setting the rollback standards. And, the question is how does Titleist have a ball that already conforms when all this is still happening? That's a really great question. I'm not going to try to answer that. But Cameron Young, according to reports that Golf Digest has from insiders that know the situation better than me, like I said, they point out here that Young was 17th in the PGA Tour driving distance at 313 yards before he made the switch. This year, having the ball, he's 312 yards. He's lost a yard. So he also, 2 months ago at the Players Championship, hit a 375-yard tee shot on the last hole at the Players Championship. 375 yards. He drove it the entire length of the fourth hole at Eagles Bluff Country Club where I used to play at. That is absurd. And so it's kind of funny because it's, they're shooting themselves in the foot with, let's have a ball that conforms to this rollback. And then Cameron Young is like, yeah, hey guys, I'm going to hit it the exact same distance, whether or not, you have this ball or not. So I think this also highlights, the article goes, and I'm not going to read the whole thing entirely. The article goes into more details about when Cameron Young switched into this golf ball, he did it for his irons. He said his irons were too high spinning. He wanted a ball that spun less and that he felt he could control more. And so the PGA players, they're looking for spin consistency. They want it to launch at a certain angle. They want the spin to be, probably a standard deviation of 200 to 300 RPMs up or down. They want it to launch a certain way, land a certain way, and for it to be consistent. And so Cameron started testing this ball to get more accuracy. Obviously you don't want to get worse in, horizontal dispersion whenever you're playing. He wanted to get more accuracy with landing zones, height control, spin consistency, everything that you need for iron game. And in doing that, he had to go, okay, well, I've got this new ball that works for my irons. I'm going to make sure it works for my drivers. And he went and got custom fit at the TBI and the TPI Institute over in California. And they were like, yeah, we got your spin, your launch right. You're still going to hit it just as far as you did before that. And so basically this article touches on, did the golf ball that Titleist make Cameron Young basically just shoot, the rollback dead, to take it out back and, put a bullet through it. And that's about as graphic as I'm going to get on this channel. But did Cameron Young's golf ball end the rollback efforts? And I would say currently, yes. I mean, because what's the point of going through all this effort of making a golf ball that's going to conform and hit it shorter distances, and then players are going to go get custom fit at their, club sponsor and club equipment companies, Performance Institute, whether it's TPI or the Kingdom, they go get custom fit and they still hit at the same distances as before by changing the levers at which the golf ball comes off the club. I don't know. Seems like a pretty pointless thing to me. Professionals are just unreal. They're freaks anyway. They're going to hit it far. So, I'm not going to go into what I think about, is that needed? Is it not needed in terms of making players hit it shorter? which I'll tell you this, I'll make an episode about that. But I do think that with all the USGA's efforts to make a conforming ball, Titleist already making one and it not resulting in any sort of considerable distance loss, um, really just kind of doesn't really look good for the USGA and their efforts. Um, and as this article points out, 6 guys are already playing this. It's Cameron Young, Neil Shipley, Rico Hui. And there's several that are already playing this ball. And so if they get dialed in with this new golf ball, I don't think they're going to see any sort of um, meaningful distance loss that's going to say, yeah, okay, this is a worthwhile pursuit. And so that's happened as well since the Masters episode came out. And I want to keep this under an hour and 10, so I'm gonna try to wrap this up in the next 25 minutes. It was then announced later this week, on the 15th of this past week, that TaylorMade is finally changing to a 2-year release cycle. So the QI40 that you see right there is going to be the same QI40 that you see next year. And so I got this article from My Golf Spy about TaylorMade shifting to a 2-year release cycle, similar to Titleist. I think Ping is on a 1 year, but I could see them changing. But for sure, Titleist is the company that everyone knows. Every 2 years, they're going to bring out new irons, new wedges, new metal woods, all that stuff. And TaylorMade is doing to do that as well. And so, which I'm honestly excited for, the price probably changing too then, because if the new models come out every 2 years, they're going to discount the second year's worth of product down to say $650 from $700. And so be able to get some deals on the newest product. And I think what will happen is that TaylorMade will be able to release meaningful gains in product development, stuff like that. I think that right now they're also close. I think the only thing that happens, in which my golf spy touches on it as well, is that instead of playing the 18 holes that you normally play, they're going to double at 36. And so they're just going to double the amount of time that they have for R&D and try to release products that have bigger gains year over year than what they are already current doing. Because I don't want to say let's face it, but year over year, if you go get custom fit for a golf club, you may see not a year or two, a yard or two in terms of distance gains total. A lot of that's just going to come from, again, getting the launch to be right, trying to get ball speed with CG locations and matching that up with forgiveness. But a lot of that can be done through custom fitting. Like I think I saw a video from Rick Shields once again on his hit golf channel, where he goes through and talks about like 2015 TaylorMade golf clubs, 2025 with the QI35, the M2 in 2016 sitting at like 295, 297 on average, and the QI35 was like 303. So I don't think there's been enough meaningful leaps in driver performance over the last 10 years to really justify buying, every year, getting a new driver. I think every 3 or 4 years, based on, for me, cosmetics. I like the way driver design aesthetically evolves over time. I like the way it evolves. I like the way the new club heads look, and that may be a big reason of me upgrading. But also, my golf swing's not the same now as it was 4 years ago. So going to get fit for my current golf swing with how I release it, what's my angle of attack, my specific qualities as a golfer, I think doing that, but buying it year over year, you're not going to see a ton of gain. And I think TaylorMade recognizes that. They talk about R&D. They're having to spend a lot of money just to make 9 months of product. That's 2 years in advance, meaning that the QI4D wasn't developed in 2025. It was developed in 2023. And then the next driver they bring out in 2028, I guess, has already been in development this past year in 2025. So they develop the products for 1 to 2 years, and then they release that for a year. And so doing 9 months of R&D, doing segments, 9 months here on one product, 9 months here on the next product, 9 months here on the next product. And for those products to come out 2 years in the future, I don't really think they see that as paying off, especially when the numbers aren't going to be anything significant. They're not going to be huge substantive leaps. And so I think a lot of golfers too, like they point out in this article, is that I go out and buy a new QI4D. Let's say I save up, it comes out in February, March, April. I save up $600 to go buy it. I get it, let's say in August, September. Okay, I play 4 months with it, and then January, February, it's like, oh yeah, we got this new driver that's better than your old one. It's like, how does that make me feel as a player and as a consumer of, okay, well, thanks. I just went and spent $700 for a stock configuration club, add in custom fitting, add in any sort of fees that you're going to have with shipping. Okay, I'm at $850, I have $900, maybe even $1,000 for a golf club. And 4 months down the road, you tell me it's not even like worth the money that I paid for it, basically because we have a new, better product. And so I think a lot of consumers will enjoy that. I know that Titleist has done that pretty well for the last, um, well, thinking about it, I mean, I guess last 15, 20 years is what they've been doing, I would say, at least since the 915. That's, I mentioned, I got into golf in 2014, 15. And so I surely remember back in, 2015, the 915 drivers were, released. And then 2 years later, the 917. So at least for the last 10 years, they've been doing the same strategy and it's paid off. And so I'm happy that TaylorMade's going to do that. I think it'll let them, um, get a lot more time with one product and be able to really, really make it what they want it to be, and then release a good quality product. And then, next year they'll have another 2 years to do that. So um, I'm excited. I'm glad they're going to be doing this, and it'll mean discounts for the consumer because end of next year they're going to start marking these things down because we got to get them out of inventory. And that's good for me. I may go grab me one. I don't know, but glad to see they're doing that. And I think consumers will enjoy that too. And then the last thing, I say that the last thing I want to check on is the PGA Championship. I want to see what the score is. I think it's still my boy. Okay. Aaron Rye, 9 under. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So he won this tournament. Okay. Yeah. Everybody's already done pretty much. I mean, unless John goes eagle, birdie, birdie, he doesn't really have a shot. Yeah. I mean, and then Aaron Rye does the blow up hole. But Aaron Rye, you've heard it here. I'm predicting the future. In about 40 minutes, in about 30 to 40 minutes, he'll be the PGA champion. So um, good for Aaron. Really glad to see him win because he's a good player and um, very, knowledgeable of where he comes from. He appreciates his parents' work, and he seems like a very good guy. Um, and so finally, the next thing I'll say on the My Golf Spides homepage is shrink the game. What are my thoughts on shrink the game? Do I think it's valid argument or just people that get mad that golf is now becoming popular and they don't like the bro culture of the Waste Management Open, let's say? My thoughts are I'm divided. I started playing golf, before COVID, definitely before the COVID boom. And I remember when I could go out to a golf course growing up and, 2017, 18, 19, public or private. I could get a tee time with very little effort. Like I could go to Oakhurst, a public course just south of where I live. I could go up to Oakhurst and say, "Hey, I want to play 9 holes with a buddy. It's just me and him. We want to get a car. Can we go off at like 3 o'clock?" Sure, not a big problem. Um, it'll be $40 for the both of you. Maybe even 30. I mean, it may have been $30 for the both of us plus range balls, um, and we could go out and play no problem. COVID happened. Everyone thought, okay, what are we going to do while this pandemic's going on? And golf exploded, which is great. I think getting more exposure to golf as a sport, as a game, is good because I think golf's a wonderful game. It is highly addictive. It is mentally challenging. It makes you think. You have to be smart to play it. You have to be good at math and knowing what to do and reading different situations. But there's also a character aspect of it with integrity, with respect, with self-control, discipline. There's all these virtues and values that golf should, instill in you. You should be taught that while playing. Um, and there's all these different things that make golf such a wonderful sport. And this article goes over the shrink the game fad. So basically, um, I guess since a year ago, I've been seeing stuff on Instagram about people saying, hey, golf's become too popular. Courses are overbooked. people aren't respecting the golf course. Bro culture has invaded. Yeah, bro culture has invaded golf courses. We're not able to keep tee times available. Prices are going up. Equipment's getting more expensive. YouTube golf's a new thing, and a lot of the traditional golf demographic, older older golfers, but also more just traditional formal golfers don't like that. Here are my thoughts on it. And this article does a great job. Again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But My Golf Spy, they have a good article about um, different things that have happened this year with LIV Golf events. There's, LIV Golf's its own thing. Like I just talked about, they have concerts, they have flash mob dances, which I didn't know happened. The Masters this year had a par 3 contest that was hosted by Jason Kelsey. Um, Jason Kelsey was involved with that. The content creators, social media influencers getting involved in golf, brands now trying to advertise and sell by using golf. There's a lot of things that have happened, and they do a good job talking about what shrink the game should actually mean, what it doesn't mean. This guy's advice and thought about it is that saying shrink the game is for morons, and he goes into all these different things. Great article. Go read it. They make really good content. But what are my thoughts on shrink the game? I am a fan of shrinking the game in terms of not letting disrespectful, ungrateful, and just not even clumsy, but just disrespectful, intolerant, or um, unrespectable people start playing the game. And what I mean is this: I don't care if you show up, like I talked about in my last episode. I don't care if you show up in a polo that's unbuttoned or not unbuttoned. I don't want to see your chest hair, obviously, but I don't want to see all the way down. I don't care if someone shows up in a golf polo that's untucked. They have on some sort of athletic shorts or even golf shorts. They have on Air Jordan golf shoes and a hat, and they don't look like your traditional Adam Scott or Keith Mitchell, and they go to play. That doesn't bother me. I don't care if, the 20-year-old thinks golf's cool because they watched a Brian Bros video, or they watched a Grant Horvat, or a Let's Play Through, or a No Laying Up. If they go watch golf YouTube and decide, I want to go get into this, that's fine. I don't mind that. I would agree that the traditional avenues of golf, in terms of the PGA Tour solely being able to be watched on CBS or Fox, I think that's outdated. I think that moving to YouTube, to different streaming platforms, to having creators create personal content um, with different PGA players like Grant Horvat playing with Scotty, or Jason Day, or even PGA Tour players themselves making golf content through YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. That's wonderful. I think getting it out there is great. What I would agree with about the shrink the game argument is that um, people are becoming disrespectful of each other, but also of golf's tradition of being a gentleman's game. Cheating has become more of a um, common occurrence, which, as you increase people that are going to play golf, cheating's going to go up, proportionally, I would think, but also, unproportionally depending on who's getting into the sport. I think a lot of people have an issue with bro culture. Like is guys being at golf tournaments, women being at golf tournaments, and clothing getting taken off, and people throwing beers everywhere, and it getting rowdy, and all that sort of thing. Um, I'm not there, it's not really my type of atmosphere. You're in episode 6, you probably know by this point, I'm much more of just a conservative, traditional guy. I don't really enjoy tournaments like the Waste Management, but if that fits somebody and it's under control, there's nothing illegal, there's nothing immoral happening, great, have at it. That do whatever you want. Other people don't see it that way. Tee times are getting more expensive because more people want to be out there, and I get that, um, it's getting more expensive. Everything is nowadays, and due to golf kind of blowing up during COVID, that's happening. That's just a reality in terms of, you know, more golfers wanting to play. Okay, let's up the price so we get on, because whether or not this one person comes, we got 4 more waiting on the wait list. Um, I would agree that we need to shrink the game in terms of not allowing people to play that disrespect the course. there's a new thing on Instagram of, oh, I miss a 5-foot putt. I'm going to take my wedge or my putter and take a big swing and tear up the green, or I'm going to drive my golf cart all over the green. I'm going to yell at people who are playing through. I'm going to cuss at people. I'm going to um, have a speaker on the course that's way too loud. I think all those things are bad for the game. I have a lot of my personal opinions on how I think golf should be played and, spreading the game, getting more people into it. But I think the traditions of respect, integrity, respecting the golf course, not cheating, making sure that you're doing your best to preserve the best in golf. Yes, do that. But do I think that um, and I think this has also came up too because like at PGA tournaments, you'll see a guy with the backwards hat with a beer in his hand that you could categorize as a frat boy. Someone, Matthew Fitzpatrick, for instance, is swinging. He gets to this point in his backswing, and someone goes Baba Booey, and they go to swing, and then that looks bad on the tournament and that um, situation. I think not allowing that type of behavior is warranted, but I would say preserve the integrity, preserve the tradition that needs to be there. There's a lot of golf tradition that doesn't need to be there in terms of a lot of it's fashion. A lot of it is, what do you do in certain situations? How should you treat the rules of golf? They're, well, not really. The rules of golf are the rules of golf. Don't break the rules. But um, kind of etiquette that's outdated, in my opinion. And there's a lot of those things I don't really care for. Get rid of that tradition, keep what's good, keep what's bad. And that's going to kind of be subjective for everyone. It's going to vary on a case by case basis. But if more people get into golf because there's a par 3 contest with Jason Kelsey, okay, I don't care. Not a big deal. Um, if more people get into golf because they saw a YouTube video that made golf look fun, oh, heaven forbid we make golf fun. I think those sort of things should be encouraged. So shrink the game. Don't allow disrespectful, people that have no place being on a golf course because they don't embody what it I think should be tolerated. They don't embody what should be allowed on a golf course. But people that want to be out there and just look different than you, no big deal. And so um, get people that don't need to be off there. They even use this word riffraff. People that don't need to be there, that don't want to be there, they're just there to get drunk and, you know, not really not apply themselves. That sounds arrogant, but if you're there to just get drunk and don't care about playing by the rules, you don't respect your playing partners, you don't respect the golf course, you shouldn't be there, in my opinion, because it is a gentleman's game. Um, and I think that should be upheld. But spread golf love. Everyone needs to play the game. I think if more people got into it, eventually prices will stabilize. There's other things that'll happen. Um, but it's a wonderful sport. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me make sure nothing else has happened with the PGA. Yeah, it's almost over. So that's my thoughts on it. I think the game of golf growing is a wonderful thing. I think it should be encouraged. Um, and that's my thoughts on it. But go read that article. Go read all the articles I touched on in this video because they're all worth your time and they're very, very good. And so I think the next video that I'm going to touch on is um, golf course maintenance, the costs that go into maintaining a golf course. Kind of what is that for 9 holes, 18 holes, what goes into that, staffing with salaries, different wages for hourly employees. Um, how would a P&L be for a golf course for maintenance, leadership? How does that differ between public and private? All those different things. I think I really want to go through that. So I may have another filler episode while I'm working on that. I'll go through more golf news and more golf content because I think for me, getting some sort of routine is better than just waiting to do something. So keep the routine going, keep the momentum going. But my next theme content episode is going to be the costs behind maintaining a golf course. What does it cost to keep a golf course running? And so, um, with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. I was a bit long-winded. There's a lot going on in terms of the world of golf, a lot of things that are exciting, and I will continue to cover. And like I said, excited for Aaron Rye. And so thank you for tuning in. If you would, just like and follow us on YouTube, but also Spotify. Um, Leave comments of other video ideas that you would have for me. and any support that you can have, whether you share this with your friends, your family, anybody like that, all the support and all the love I can get is appreciated because I do this just for fun. And so I always enjoy doing it. It's just been a pleasure. And so thank you for stopping by the clubhouse. Happy you're here, and we'll catch you on the next one.